Hello, my name is Lindsay Fraser and I'm from Land Design Partnership, and we're a company of landscape architects, and we've been asked by the City of Frankston to prepare a master plan for Overport Park in Frankston South. The purpose of this video is to provide a brief overview of the thematic directions plan that has been prepared for the park and which is on Council's website for comment until April the 27th. The thematic directions has been prepared from a combination of meetings with council officers, through discussions with the clubs and groups who are tenants on the reserve, and also through discussions with the community who attended an information session last December and then provided comment on their thoughts on the reserves during January. The thematic directions really respond to the existing conditions of the reserve and also to the aspirations of the users and the community as to how they'd like to see the park in the future and what they value about the park now and what they might like to see changed into the future. I'll briefly outline the thematic directions which are included on this plan just to help you make comments on the plan on Council's website. One of the key issues at Overport Park is parking and access, particularly on busy sports days and around the main sports ovals. The recent road and car parking works that have been undertaken by the City of Frankston will go a long way to resolving those issues and to easing those car parking issues. One of the directions of the master plan will be also to investigate improved access and parking along Overport Road around Oval number 1. As you'll know, there's a couple of existing car parks here, and one of the directions is to investigate the potential to enlarge those car parks and to provide some connection between them to make better use of those car parks and to make circulation around the oval clearer for people. That will involve some investigation into the existing pine trees that occur along Overport Road and into their health and into their condition and their longevity into the future. But one of the directions will be to investigate replacement of those trees with other trees that will then enable improved parking and connection between those car parks. Signage also on Overport Road will be important to direct people to which relevant car park they're coming to, depending upon what activity they're visiting at the reserve. So they'll be important aspects in terms of improving parking and accessibility into the reserve. Overflow parking occurs in this area down here, this open grassed area near Oval 1 on busy sports days, as users of the reserve will know. On peak days that gets used heavily for overflow parking. The direction for the master plan is to retain the use of this area for dog off leash walking and for informal recreation such as ball games, but also to improve the soil profile and the surface of this area to enable it to cope with that car parking demand on busy sports days while retaining a well-grassed and well-drained surface for use for informal recreation for the rest of the weekend at other times. As well as the southern grassed area, the northern grassed area in the northeast of the park will also be retained for its dog off leash activity and also for informal recreation, just as it is at the moment. And both of these areas, the southern grassed area and the northern grassed area, will be enhanced through a range of open space improvements such as shelters, seats, and potentially drinking fountains and dog bowls. Now, importantly, both of these open lawn areas will also be enhanced through the provision of a path network, a clearly defined and connected network of paths which will connect all areas of the park with each other. So not only perimeter paths around these areas, but a network of paths that will connect all activity areas within the park. These paths will be suitable for a range of activities such as jogging, strolling, dog walking, and they'll connect the key focal activity areas that occur within the reserve. There'll be a number of different path materials that will be used for those paths depending upon where the paths occur. So for instance, in the central area and around the main activity ovals, the path is likely to be a formal path such as an exposed aggregate coloured concrete. In more remote areas, particularly along Sweetwater Creek and through the informal recreation areas, the paths are likely to be a granitic gravel surface, therefore a softer surface. Importantly, this path network will connect all of the activity areas and create a series of loop paths that people can take as they wish to, and also connect to the residential areas that surround the park. One of the important directions of the master plan will be the beautification and enhancement of the landscape aspects of the park. This will include the whole of the park through Council's ongoing maintenance and management programs, but there are a few specific areas highlighted on the thematic directions plan, which I'd just like to point out. The first one's one that we've already mentioned. The existing pine trees along Overport Road will be looked at in terms of their health. They're mature trees and they're becoming older trees. They'll be looked at in terms of their health and their longevity, and potentially will be replaced over time with new plantings that will allow for clearer views into the reserve and will allow for better turf management of this side of Oval 1. So that will, the intent of that will be to provide a landscape and visual enhancement to that Overport Road interface, which is largely hidden at the moment. The dam down here to the southwest of Oval number 1 is intended to be improved as well, and it'll be investigated as to whether the dam can be opened up, whether there can be structures such as decks and jetties that might allow people to interact with the water body, and also some additional planting. Safety will be a key consideration in all of that. So the thematic direction is really to investigate the potential for improved activity and improved access to the dam area. I guess it's fair to say that the dam is seen as an underused area that could be used more beneficially for the benefit of the community that use the park. Vegetation will also be an important aspect of the master plan, particularly along Sweetwater Creek, which defines the majority of the eastern boundary of Overport Park. And revegetation will have the intent of providing for biodiversity, enhanced biodiversity, to contributing to broader habitat corridors along the Sweetwater Creek to the north and to the south, and also to providing another experience for users of the park, particularly those who might use these trails that are existing along the Sweetwater Creek corridor, as well as the natural areas, those bushland areas along Sweetwater Creek. The master plan is encouraging the investigation into the old homestead site here and trying to understand what its vegetation might have been like in its original form, and really treating this area as a new community space that contrasts with the areas of the park around it. Certainly this garden area contrasts greatly with the Sweetwater Creek character and contrasts greatly with the active sports areas. So we see that there's an opportunity to provide a new activity in this area, a place for respite, a place for shade and for comfort, and a more of an exotic garden character that might have reflected the old homestead character. So the direction there is to investigate the old homestead and to return that area to a pleasure garden, something of its former character with a mix of exotic and deciduous and evergreen trees. In all of these passive landscape areas, the open grassed areas that we've spoken about along Sweetwater Creek within the old homestead garden, stormwater management will be an important direction. At the moment, stormwater is largely uncontrolled as it hits the ground and runs off the site. And so the intent is in all of these works to manage stormwater, to treat it, to slow down its access into Sweetwater Creek, to manage erosion, and to provide a more sustainable future for stormwater into the future. In addition to these directions for the passive landscape areas of the park, the existing active sports spaces, Oval 1 and Oval 2, and the tennis complex up here in the north are intended to be retained in their current form, and certainly to be improved over time as part of council's ongoing management and maintenance of those areas. But in addition to those active sports spaces, the master plan considers two new active facilities. The first is the potential for a multi-lined netball court space here in the centre of the reserve, away from residential boundaries and away from the more natural and passive areas of the reserve, to provide a facility that's suitable for the football netball club to use. At the moment, we have a football netball club, but no netball facilities. So the direction is to investigate a netball court that could occur here with multi-line marking to be used for a variety of other sports by the community when it's not being used by the football netball club itself. The second active sports facility is to formalise the existing informal bike track that occurs here just near the open grassed area that we've already spoken about, to formalise that into a facility that can be used by a range of users, children particularly, to learn to ride, to enjoy riding their bikes, and to do that in a sustainable and a manageable way with a more formalised facility. Importantly, that facility will be located in the area that it is at the moment, not to extend much further into the grassed areas so that we're not losing any of those grassed areas, and away from residential boundaries to avoid any of those interface issues. In summary, the suggested directions for Overport Park are really to build upon the existing spaces that are there, the existing activities, to enhance the existing activity that occurs, to maintain all of the user groups that are there at the moment and to provide for their needs, and to introduce a couple of new activities that support the existing clubs that are resident on the reserve. Council looks forward to receiving your comments on the thematic directions plan and to contributing to the preparation of the final master plan in the coming couple of months. Thanks very much.